Dad left me everything after Mom cheated while he was dying of cancer. She remarried a stranger who threw out my dad's things and called himself my new father. So I kicked them both out. I thought I knew what heartbreak was when my dad died 8 months ago. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for the sheer, stomach-churning betrayal that followed. A betrayal so deep it made me question everything I ever thought about family. Life hasn't been the same since Dad left us. It's just my brother and me now, navigating a world that suddenly feels much colder without him. Dad, bless his heart, had a will. He wanted us, his children, to have his house, everything in his bank account. He thought he was taking care of us, making sure we'd be okay. But when my mom found out, oh, she was absolutely furious. She felt sidelined, forgotten, like Dad had chosen us over her. Here's the thing, though, my mom and Dad never really had a good relationship, not even when he was alive. She had me when they were just kids, still in college, and I guess it was just too much for her. The crushing weight of responsibility, of being a mother before she was ready, it overwhelmed her. So one day she just left. Vanished. No warning, no goodbye. For 2 whole years, it was just Dad and his parents raising me. They were the ones who fed me, cared for me, gave me the love I wasn't getting from her. I don't remember much from when I was tiny, but I know Dad never made me feel like anything was missing. He was always there, a steady, loving presence, even though she must have broken his heart. Then, for years after she walked out, Mom suddenly reappeared. She acted like nothing had happened. She spun this whole tearful story about regretting her choices, missing us, wanting to be a family again. She cried. She apologized. She made all these grand promises about how things would be different if Dad just gave her one more chance. And Dad, being the incredibly kind man he was, did. Maybe he still loved her. Or maybe he just wanted me to have both parents. Either way, he let her back in. But for me, I never truly connected with her. How could I just forget that she'd left me behind? How could I pretend those 4 years without her hadn't happened? No matter how hard she tried to play the role of a loving mother, I just didn't feel it. She was always distant, more like an acquaintance who happened to live with us than someone who genuinely cared about being involved in my life. She never made an effort to understand me, and honestly, I don't think she ever wanted to. One of our biggest clashes was how fundamentally different we were. I was never the girly daughter she craved. I loved sports. I dressed for comfort, not fashion. Makeup? No thanks. Instead of embracing who I was, she criticized me relentlessly. She'd roll her eyes at my baggy clothes, make snide comments when I spent too much time outside, complain to Dad about how embarrassing it was that I wasn't more ladylike. She even talked to other people about it, like I was some grand disappointment. She didn't just ignore me. She actively made me feel like I wasn't good enough, like my very essence was something to be ashamed of. After years of that, it became impossible to see her as a real mother. She was just there, a blood relation, but not family. Then, when she got pregnant with my brother, things somehow got even worse. She hated being pregnant, and she didn't try to hide it. She complained constantly about being uncomfortable, about gaining weight, about Dad getting her pregnant again. It was like she saw my brother as a burden, not a blessing. And yeah, pregnancy is tough, I get that. But her reaction was different. Dad reminded her she'd had options early on, but she chose this. Now she was blaming him, as if he'd forced it upon her. The fights between them became constant. Every little thing set her off. If Dad cooked dinner, she'd complain it wasn't what she wanted, or that he'd done it wrong, even if she'd never told him what she did want. If he tried to help her, to carry groceries or rub her back, she'd snap, saying he was too much, or just pretending to care. But if he gave her space, she'd get mad about that too, accusing him of neglecting her. There was no winning with her. I'll never forget one time. Dad had been swamped with work and forgot her favorite ice cream. Instead of understanding, she exploded, yelling about how he never listens and doesn't care. She got right up in his face and slapped him. Slapped him. It was horrifying, traumatic. Even to me, she made sure I felt her resentment. Before the pregnancy, she was distant. During those 9 months, she couldn't stand me. If I tried to talk, she'd brush me off, roll her eyes. If I laughed too loud, she'd scream at me to be quiet, saying I was giving her a headache. Sometimes I'd try to do something nice, help her around the house, but she'd just yell until I was in tears. Nothing I did was ever good enough. The worst? I had a school sports competition, something I was so excited for. I told Mom, hoping she'd come. She scoffed. Why would I want to watch you running around getting sweaty like some boy? That comment stung. Dad overheard and tried to defend me, which just sparked another fight, her accusing him of turning me against her. But the truth was, I didn't need anyone to turn me against her. She was doing a perfectly good job of that herself. Whenever Dad tried to reason with her, she'd blame hormones. She acted like that gave her a free pass to be cruel. But hormones don't make someone belittle the people they're supposed to love. That was just her. Even after my brother was born, things didn't get better. It was just the start of more problems. She outright refused to care for him properly, especially feeding him. She'd complain she was exhausted, not getting enough sleep, not built for this. Even though Dad and his parents were doing everything. They fed him, changed him, cared for him. If it was up to her, I don't think he would have made it. She was always on edge, snapping at the smallest things. Walking on eggshells was our norm. If Dad tried to help, she'd call him useless. If I made a sound, she'd yell like I was the worst thing in the world. I didn't feel like I had a mother. I felt like I was living with someone who hated us. Eventually, Dad convinced her to see a doctor. She was diagnosed with postpartum depression. Meds were prescribed, and for a while, we hoped. But even with them, things never truly improved. She still had these incredibly dark, heavy moods. Then, one day, it escalated to a terrifying level. She locked herself in the bathroom with my baby brother. He was screaming, crying. Dad banged on the door, but she didn't answer. He knew something was wrong. He started breaking down the door. When he finally got through, Mom was standing there, holding a knife. She said she wanted to hurt herself, that she couldn't do this anymore. She just wanted it all to stop. Dad panicked. He begged her not to hurt our brother. I don't know how long it took, but he finally managed to get the knife away from her. He grabbed my brother, held him tight, checking he was okay. Mom just stood there, completely drained. That night was the absolute breaking point. Dad had no choice. He called the police. He was terrified for my baby brother, for me, for what Mom might do. The situation had spiraled so far out of control. The police took her away. She was admitted to a psychiatric center with 24/7 security. Therapy, counseling, mandatory sessions. It wasn't just meds anymore. They needed to make sure she was stable enough to function. Eventually, she was released. But nothing ever went back to normal. Dad changed. He was always cautious, but after that night, he became even more protective. He never trusted her alone with us. And honestly, I don't blame him. He'd been through too much. So, every time he went to work, he'd drop us off at his parents' house instead of leaving us with Mom. He couldn't shake the fear that she'd snap again. And that fear never left me either. So, that became our routine. My brother and I spent most of our time with our grandparents. We became incredibly close, my brother and I. We've been through hell and back, and he's the only one who truly understands just how messed up our family was. We didn't just grow up as siblings, we survived as a team. Through all the chaos, all the fights, all the times we felt alone, we always had each other. Then, a year before Dad passed, he was diagnosed with cancer. He was the constant in our lives, our protector. The thought of losing him was unbearable. At first, we clung to hope. Chemo might help, the doctors said. We convinced ourselves he'd get better. He was strong. He'd survived so much. This was just another battle he'd win. Every treatment, we hoped this would be the one. But it never was. He just got weaker. The chemo drained him. Dad, who was always so vibrant, so strong, started fading right in front of us. And no matter how much we tried to be strong for him, deep down, we were terrified. We knew we were losing him. And during this incredibly vulnerable time, when Dad was at his absolute weakest, physically, mentally, emotionally, my mom did something that shattered what little respect I had left for her. While he was fighting for his life, enduring grueling chemo, barely eating or sleeping, she started cheating on him. I don't know exactly when it began, but looking back, the signs were there. She was distant, spending more time away, never visiting Dad, acting strange, dressing up more. Then, one afternoon, I came home from college, tired from classes, ready to check on Dad. But when I walked into the house, I heard noises from my parents' bedroom. Something felt off. I pushed the door open, and there she was, in bed with a total stranger. This random man, in my parents' bedroom, like he belonged there. Like my father, the man who gave her everything, didn't even exist. Time stopped. I froze, my heart pounding so hard I thought I'd pass out. She saw me. Panic flashed across her face. She scrambled for excuses, for explanations, but nothing she could say would ever erase that image. It's burned into my memory. My mother betrayed my father while he was fighting for his life. The absolute disgust and anger I felt in that moment are indescribable. After I caught her, Mom went into full damage control. Instead of owning up to it, she started gaslighting me. She begged me not to tell Dad. She looked me in the eyes and said that if I spoke a word, I would be the one to hurt him, not her. That he was suffering enough, that knowing the truth would kill him faster, that it was better he never found out. She made it sound like she was doing him a favor, protecting him, when in reality, she was only protecting herself. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell her she was the one hurting him, breaking everything apart. But I felt trapped. And I hated to admit it, but she was right. How could I tell him this? He was dying. How could I tell a dying man that the woman he'd spent his life with, the woman he'd forgiven countless times, was betraying him in the worst way imaginable? So, against every fiber of my being, I stayed silent. Not for her, but because I couldn't bear to add to Dad's suffering. Mom assured me she'd end the affair. Of course, she lied. I wanted to believe she felt some guilt, but she didn't. She never did. By the time Dad passed away, she had already been with multiple men. She wasn't just unfaithful, she was shameless. She'd disappear for hours, sometimes whole nights, no explanation. She'd come home smelling like men's cologne, hungover, lipstick smudged. I knew exactly what she was doing. And every time I looked at Dad, frail and tired, barely holding on, it made me sick. She had no respect for him, no love, no decency. While he fought for his life, she was sneaking around, betraying him over and over again. That's why I felt a profound sense of relief when I found out Dad didn't leave her anything in his will. She didn't deserve a single thing. Not after everything she'd done. She'd taken so much from him while he was alive. So, the fact that she was completely cut out of his will felt like justice. It was like he knew, even if he never said it out loud. But of course, my mom isn't the type to accept consequences. She's never taken accountability for anything. Even though Dad legally left everything to me and my brother, she still tried to worm her way back in. This year, I finally graduated and landed a good job, but my brother is still a minor. So, Mom pressured me, urging me to let her live in the house, even though she had no legal right. At least until your brother goes off to college, she'd say. She argued it was our family home, that she had every right to stay. She acted like Dad not leaving her the deed was some huge injustice, when she was the one who had wronged us over and over. She tried to guilt-trip me, saying my brother needed her, that kicking her out would tear the family apart. I was okay with letting her stay, for a while. Not for her, but for my brother. I didn't want to uproot his life while he was finishing school. As much as I despised her, I wasn't going to make things harder on him. But ever since Dad passed, Mom stopped even pretending to be anything other than who she really is. She doesn't even try to hide her dating life anymore. Before, she at least had the decency to be secretive. Now, she just doesn't care. She brings new men around the house like it's nothing. Different faces every few weeks, sometimes even days. She parades them around openly, completely oblivious to how it affects my brother. He hates it, probably more than I do. He wakes up, walks into the kitchen, and there's some random guy making coffee like he owns the place. He told me he doesn't even feel comfortable in his own home anymore. It feels like a cheap motel with a revolving door of strangers. This week, Mom took things to a whole new level. Without a word to my brother, she packed her bags, left him alone, and went off on vacation to Vegas with her newest boyfriend. Because, of course, that's exactly the impulsive, reckless thing she always does. At first, we didn't think much of it. She disappeared so often it wasn't even surprising. But then, out of nowhere, we saw her social media post. There she was, smiling in a white dress, next to some man we'd never seen before, with a sickeningly sweet caption announcing she had just gotten married. My eyes widened in shock. She'd actually gotten married, just months after Dad passed. She didn't even have the decency to wait. My brother and I were furious. No conversation, no warning, not even a heads up. And if that wasn't bad enough, she actually had the nerve to call us later that day. She went on and on about how proud she was of her second marriage, talking about how she had finally snatched a good man. Then, In the most nauseatingly cheerful tone, she told us he was going to be our new stepdad. I almost gagged. The absolute audacity of this woman. To try and force this complete stranger into our lives, as if we were supposed to welcome him with open arms. As if our dad, the man who raised us, who sacrificed everything, was just some old chapter she could close and move on from without a second thought. Not even a full day after getting married, this man, this complete stranger, moves into our house like he owns the place. My brother, still reeling from the shock, came home from school to find boxes and boxes of Dad's things outside on the pavement. His clothes, his books, his framed photos, all of it just thrown out like trash. He rushed inside, desperate for an explanation, and saw them. In the backyard, Mom and her new husband were burning some of Dad's belongings. My brother screamed at them to stop, but Mom had the nerve to act surprised, like she didn't know why he was upset. Her new husband just scoffed and yelled back at my brother that he had thrown those boxes out and was burning the rest because he didn't want to live in a house full of a dead man's things. He looked my brother dead in the eye and sneered, "You need to get over your grief and move on, boy. Your real dad is here now." That was it. That was the moment my brother snapped. He lunged at him, fists clenched, ready to beat the living hell out of that man. But Mom intervened, defending her husband. She told my brother he was overreacting over meaningless things. After learning all of this, after seeing what she and this man did, I knew what had to happen. I want to kick my mother and her new husband out of our house. Would I be an a-hole if I did? Update 1*. I appreciate every single one of you who took the time to respond. Hearing your thoughts and perspectives has truly helped me feel more confident in what I need to do. I think the reason Dad never divorced Mom, even after everything, was because he was always the kind of person who believed in family, no matter the pain it brought him. He never wanted my brother and me to grow up without both parents. And I think, deep down, he always hoped she would change. He loved us too much to risk losing us in a messy divorce, especially when we were younger. I also think once he got sick, divorce became less of a priority. He was just focused on trying to survive. The only reason I ever agreed to let her stay in the house was for my brother. He was still a minor, and I didn't want to add more instability to his life. I figured as long as he was in school, it was better for him to stay in a familiar environment. But after what just happened, no, she's not staying in our house for much longer. I'll keep you all updated as things move forward. Update 2*. This week, after everything that transpired, I decided it was time. I talked to a lawyer, wanting to understand my rights, to protect my brother and our home. After reviewing the situation, my lawyer confirmed it. The house legally belongs to me and my brother. I have every right to make her and her new husband leave. So, I officially had a notice served to my mom, ordering them both to move out. As expected, they are furious. My phone has been blowing up with calls and messages from Mom, but I haven't answered a single one. I already know it's just going to be more manipulation, guilt-tripping, and yelling, none of which I'm willing to deal with. Meanwhile, I've booked my tickets. I'm heading back home soon. My brother needs me, and there's no way I'm leaving him to handle this mess alone. It's time to take back what's ours. Update 3*. It's been 2 months, and I can finally say it. My mother is officially out of our house. As the move-out deadline loomed closer, she became more and more desperate. At first, she was absolutely livid, calling me ungrateful, selfish, cruel. She accused me of trying to ruin her life, of taking away her home, even though it was never hers to begin with. She threw every insult she could think of, hoping I would back down. But I didn't budge. Not an inch. Then, when she realized her anger wasn't working, she switched tactics. Suddenly, she wasn't the raging, bitter woman cursing me out. Now, she was the helpless victim. She started groveling, her voice trembling as she begged me to let her stay. She sobbed about how I was taking away the only thing she had left that reminded her of our father. She kept repeating that she and her husband had nowhere else to go, as if that was somehow my problem to fix. But I didn't care. Not anymore. I had spent my whole life watching her make selfish decisions, watching her hurt the people who actually loved her. And never once had she faced real consequences. This time was different. She made her choices, and now she had to live with them. When Mom couldn't convince me, her husband tried. He thought he could intimidate me, scare me into changing my mind. He went on and on about how I was being disrespectful and heartless for kicking my own mother out. He acted like he had some kind of authority over me, like just because he married my mom, he could push me around. When I didn't even flinch, he got even nastier. He threatened me, saying things like, "You don't know who you're messing with, and I know where you live and can always come back to teach you a lesson." But I stood my ground. I wasn't a scared little kid anymore, and I damn sure wasn't going to let some man who had known my mom for 5 minutes act like he had any say in my life. I told him straight up that if he or my mom refused to leave, I would get the police involved. I made it crystal clear that if they tried anything shady, I wouldn't hesitate to file trespassing charges and have them both removed by force. The second I mentioned the police, his tough guy act dissolved. Suddenly, he wasn't so eager to argue anymore. Since Mom and her husband moved out, my brother and I have officially cut them off. No contact, no updates, nothing. She made it clear a long time ago that we were never really her priority. So now, she's not ours either. To make sure she doesn't try anything, we've changed the locks and installed security cameras around the house. There's absolutely nothing she or her husband can do to us now. This is our home, and for the first time in a long time, it finally feels like we are going to have some peace.